Have you ever tried to quit smoking before and failed? If yes, you're not alone. Studies show that it takes on average 30 quit attempts to succeed. What this means, for some people it takes less than 30, for some people it takes more. And that's terrifying, right? But let me ask you this. Why are there people who find quitting smoking so easy? So easy even though they've been smoking for decades. They find it easy even though they smoke over 2 packs a day. What are they doing differently? Well, it has nothing to do with willpower, luck, or even readiness. It's something else, something more fundamental. My name is Nasia Davos. I'm an ex-smoker psychologist, and I help people break habits and addictions that I have overcome myself. And by the end of this video, you will have a clear answer as to why you're struggling to quit smoking and how to succeed this time for good without having to make 30 quit attempts, but instead making your next quit attempt your last. And it all starts by understanding the truth about nicotine. This is something nobody's talking about. This is something that when I learned this, it changed my life forever. So in one quit attempt, I woke up, tired as always, and I had a craving, so I put on a nicotine patch. Then I dragged myself to make a cup of coffee. I sit down with my coffee, and the moment the first sip hits my tongue, all I wanted was a cigarette. So I shoved down 2 muffins to give myself a dopamine hit, and still, all I wanted was a cigarette. I was tapping my feet nervously, I was clenching my fists. And then I decided to chew a nicotine gum on top of the patch for extra nicotine and oral fixation, but still, all I wanted was a cigarette. The craving was not going away. And I asked myself, why? When I had plenty of nicotine in my body, would I have done anything to have a cigarette? So I started thinking and I started researching, and this is what I found. That nicotine is weak. Yes, nicotine as a substance, it has a short half-life, which means that it leaves the body quickly. 3 to 5 days after quitting smoking or vaping, nicotine has completely left your body, even for heavy smokers and vapors. What this means, if you've ever stopped smoking or vaping for more than 5 days, you were done with a physical addiction. So nicotine is not the real problem here. Then the question becomes, why do we miss smoking and crave it and relapse days, months, even years after nicotine has left the body? To answer that question, I asked myself this: why do I smoke? What is making me relapse? And I invite you to ask yourself the same question: what makes me smoke? Why do I go back to it? My answers were, I need something to do with my hands. I feel lost without a cigarette. Or it helps me deal with stress and boredom and loneliness. Or I enjoy the ritual, the deep inhale, the transition between tasks. I was telling myself that I need it to control my weight. Or it's my little break, my reward, my only pleasure in life. That's what I was saying. Now that we think about it, of course, we can see that everything that keeps us attached to smoking is either mental or behavioral. So smoking, vaping, nicotine is a mental and behavioral addiction. The mind is wired to seek nicotine as stress relief, companion, or reward. This cognitive, this mental dependence is the strong relationship you've developed over the years with smoking. It's the psychological dependence that affects your thoughts and your beliefs and the emotional ties that you have built around cigarettes or vaping. Maybe right now you believe that smoking helps you cope with stress and boredom and difficult feelings or even happy feelings. You might enjoy it or see it as a well-deserved reward. You may even hate smoking, but you still need just one more to feel normal. These are all the ways the mental dependence shows up in your life and causes you to miss smoking and causes you to experience those irresistible cravings. So that's the mental part. And now behaviorally, smoking becomes part of your routine, our mornings, our work, our breaks. The behavioral dependence is all about when and how you smoke. It's all the ways smoking has integrated throughout your routine and your life. This is what drives your automatic behavior when you reach for a cigarette with your morning coffee, after your meals, during breaks at work, or whenever you feel restless, or when you pick up the phone, or when you get in your car. When you started smoking or vaping, you gradually associated cigarettes with every aspect of your life, the highs and the lows. So what happened is that You trained your brain. You taught your brain to expect a cigarette when you talk on the phone, when you socialize, or when you want to reward yourself. So now, all these situations, all these emotions have become triggers that remind you to smoke, and they make you feel like life will be incomplete without nicotine. So that's the mental and behavioral addiction, how smoking makes you feel and how ingrained it is in your life. So the only way to truly quit and never miss it again and not need any willpower is to break the psychological and habitual chains that keep you attached to smoking. Once you break these ties, you simply don't want to smoke anymore, and you also don't smoke anymore on autopilot. In fact, the CBQ method is based on the fact that smoking is 90% a mental addiction and only 10% a physical one. See, if the real problem was the physical addiction, you wouldn't be able to sleep. Your physical cravings would just jolt you awake every hour of the night just to smoke. But they don't. Yet, you are able to sleep for 5, 6, maybe 7 hours without waking up gasping for a cigarette, right? Because nicotine was never the real problem. What happens though is that we smoke in the morning, or we smoke maybe in the middle of the night when we're already woken up to drink water or go to the bathroom. Why? Because our mind is awake. And our mind tells us that we need a cigarette. So it's the mental addiction that really makes us smoke. And yet, when you think about it, all these generic solutions like nicotine gums and patches, they are all designed to feed you more nicotine as if you physically need it. Nicotine substitutes, what they do is they prolong your physical addiction, they prolong your physical cravings, and they prolong your physical withdrawal. That's not even the worst part. Not only nicotine substitutes prolong your addiction, your physical addiction, they also intensify your mental addiction, because by taking nicotine substitutes, it's like telling yourself, I need nicotine to survive, I need nicotine to feel normal, and that makes you more attached and therefore more mentally addicted. So ultimately, when push comes to shove, when you have to resist a craving, when you are in a difficult situation, you rely on your willpower. And that's hard because that makes you even more deprived and even more mentally attached. So now it's apparent why taking nicotine gums and patches cannot help you succeed, because you can put on a patch, but you will still miss smoking and you will still not feel like yourself. Or you can even take a pill and still see smoking as part of your identity and feel like your day is empty and that you cannot have fun when you socialize. By the way, have you ever thought why there are so many initiatives and ways to quit smoking offered by our healthcare system in the UK where I live, but also the US, Canada, Australia, Europe, everywhere? There are so many initiatives and ways to quit smoking, yet so many people fail. Or why all the quit smoking offerings by governmental organizations and by non-profit organizations don't have any success stories from actual people? Because these approaches do not address the real problem, and they just put substances in your body, funded, of course, by pharmaceutical companies or big tobacco companies that own pharmaceutical companies. So the biggest problem with this system being against you is that the more people fail, the less they believe success is possible. In psychology, this is called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is when we fail again and again, so we're convinced we can never succeed. So after a point, we stop properly trying, and then failure becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you have to do something different to succeed. It's like running east, looking for the sunset. You can try really hard. You can use a lot of willpower, but it's not going to work because it's the wrong strategy. But if you simply turn west, you immediately have success, not because you tried harder, but because it's the right strategy. So the right strategy, the solution to quitting smoking, is to break your psychological and behavioral attachment to smoking, because smoking is a mental and behavioral addiction. And it is this understanding that led me to decide to use my background in psychology and actually figure out how to break the mental and behavioral addiction, which after years created the CBQ Method that I was honored to present in a TED Talk in 2016. and has been selected as the #1 method to quit smoking. Why? Because it removes the root of the problem. And why does it work so effectively? Why is it different from hypnosis or just cognitive behavioral therapy or apps or books where you're just told stuff? It works because it has 4 quit smoking stages, and these stages mirror the stages the brain naturally goes through when it forms or breaks habits or addictions. It mirrors the stages the brain naturally goes through when it forms and when it breaks habits or addictions. Because becoming addicted is a process. Breaking free is reversing that process. And you can do that. Because the good thing about addictions is that we're not born with them. They are learned. They're not hardware, they're software. You programmed your mind to rely on smoking as an inseparable part of your life. And what you learn, you can unlearn. So if you're looking to quit smoking in a way that's scientific and that actually breaks your mental and behavioral dependence and your physical one, then check out my new Quit Smoking Masterclass. It's online and it's the best place to start. When you attend this masterclass, we'll go deeper into the 4 stages of quitting smoking, the 4 stages of the CBQ method, uncover the common mistakes that keep you stuck and relapsing, and I will give you a clear path to becoming smoke-free. So if that sounds like something you want, if that sounds like something you've been looking for, you can go to cbqwebinar.com and see the date and time for the upcoming masterclass. This masterclass is perfect for you if you have been smoking for decades, if you feel too addicted, and if you've tried to quit smoking many times before, and you just don't want another failed attempt. Also, this is for you if you've been really wanting to make a change in your life that will transform your health and every other area of your life. But I have to tell you, this masterclass is not going to be for you if you're expecting to get the same advice or generic tips that you've seen everywhere online, because this is different from what you already know. You've already seen that. And I'm definitely not going to guilt you or scare you into quitting smoking because I don't believe that works. Instead, what I believe, my philosophy about quitting smoking, is that quitting smoking is about freedom and empowerment. I believe quitting smoking is not about resisting smoking or vaping. It's about no longer desiring it so you can release it from your life. And that's what I'll show you on this masterclass. I will show you a real scientific and proven process to really and finally break free from smoking. It's a path that thousands of others have walked before you. So you can see when is the next masterclass at cbqwebinar.com. The link is also in the description of this video. And if what I shared with you today resonated with you, I'd love to see you there. Until then, choose freedom.